Hey everybody, Jesse Dobeck here, and we're live with the Beyond Big Influence show with me, and my special guest today is Henry Eisenstein. How you doing, Henry?
Doing amazing, brother. How are you doing?
Doing amazing. So we're gonna dive in. It's all about you, Henry. You're an amazing guy. I've had the pleasure to work with you. I'm working with you over the last couple of months and getting to know you. And I really want to get to know more about you, who you are, your background, how you became the superstar now I think you're working in EXP, but you've been doing a lot in real estate over the last 5 to 7 years ish, right? You've kind of came into your own. You're starting to really launch. You're launching your own brand. You're building up your influence, and you're really crushing it in real estate. So yeah, we're here to get to know you. I got some questions. I'm going to ambush you a little bit. No,
Sounds
yeah,
good,
no.
man.
Yeah, no pressure. We're just going to have some fun here today on the show. So if you're out there and you're tuning in, you want to know about real estate, put anything in the chat that you want. Make sure you share this out on your social media. Hit the likes and the hearts and those buttons. That helps us get this in front of more people, because I got to tell you that Henry's story is absolutely, amazing. He's a genuine guy. He's going to come from the heart. He's definitely a real person. And so let me just say a few words about Henry before we start. So Henry's life is the definition of reinvention. From a depressed and suicidal 2-time college dropout to owning several $1 million worth of real estate, being part of over $400 million worth of transactions. And that's, I think, over the last, few years, because he's kind of just came into his own like really hard in the last couple of years. Dozens of flips. He's spoken on stages, so he's a speaker. And he's also spoken to a lot of colleges, the youth, and getting people on the right track across the country in entrepreneurship, sales, and mindset, as well as on the board of charity supporting mental health. So I take it that's a really important part of your story there, is being and mental health is something that really there's a lot of people that struggle with that. I know I have over the last years of being super successful, then struggling a little bit to find myself. But we're going to talk in depth about what makes Henry unique, and his value and contribution to the world. So CPC, behavioral health care, so he supports that as well. Henry now is newly engaged, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
To your beautiful fiance. That's amazing. And now on track to buy over 100 units this year alone, while brokering over $100 million a year in real estate transactions. So those are some big numbers, man. So congratulations on all of that stuff. We're super excited to have you here today. So if you're out there, make sure you share this message and drop a comment. And Henry, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into your story. And can you kind of, just give a little bit of background about, how you got started in real estate, and, maybe like, what things led up to you wanting to do something to be super successful? Because, you're a pretty young guy, and you're already doing millions of dollars in your business. Most people, they work a lifetime and they'll never even crack $100,000 a year in, take home from their job, right? So what got you into this, thinking bigger, thinking beyond big, going for it, and getting past some of the struggles? So maybe just start off, with your background, and we'll just go from there.
Sure. So, listen, first off, again, thank you for having me on. And I was not the person you would have bet on in high school, middle school, growing up, to be anything, right? I wouldn't have bet on myself. I would have bet on just about every other person. I graduated. I heard this quote a long time ago, so I've been stealing it for a long time, but I graduated top 5 in my class from the bottom in high school.
Oh, good.
I definitely, school wasn't for me. I knew I wasn't going to go to college, but then I was kind of forced to, so hence the dropping out a couple times. And look, the only thing that kind of that really stuck with me was that by the time I was like 18 or 19 years old, I was finally working a job at a kid's party place. And the one thing that stuck out more than anything was that this guy that ran the business, I was a huge fan of the guy. I was a huge fan because he had something that I admired, which was respect from people. And I didn't have that. Like growing up, I was bullied all the time. Growing up, I didn't get along with a lot of people. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have respect from people. And I didn't understand why. And this guy had a lot of respect from people. And above the money, above the business, above anything, I just wanted to be respected and truly like worth something. Like it just in general, like I felt like my life was worthless, which is suicidal and depressed, right? Like I didn't have much. And so this guy was an inspiration to me and gave me a bunch of opportunities. By the time I was 20 years old, dude, I was making like 60 G's a year, managing like 40 employees, king of the world, no college degree, no college debt, 30 G's in the bank, no debt. I mean, like I'm king of the world, right? I thought I made it.
You
right?
did.
Walking around with a wad of cash in my pocket with a couple of G's.
Yeah.
When you're 20, to me, I was rich, right? Like, especially all my college friends, right? Mm-hmm. And I was watching a lot of, I was watching like $1 Million Listing New York at the time, which again, the guy's like, this was 8 years ago, I guess. I'm 20. I just turned 28 now, and I got my license right before my 21st birthday. And a friend of mine was like, listen, I know I'm thinking about getting my real estate license. We got a young friend of ours who was again 21 at the time, who had made $20,000. He's like, I'm making 20 G's a month, like crushing it real estate. I'm like, 20 grand a month. I work 100 hours a week. Like I'm not afraid of hard work. I'll freaking crush this guy. If he's making 20 a month, I can make double that, no problem, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, basically, we found out it was a lie. It was one month, one time he had made 20 grand.
No.
And basically, I quit my job because I had to get licensed and all this other stuff. And I'm not a good student, so I was like, I got to go all in and blah blah blah. And my first year of real estate, I made like 29 grand, and I was in debt like 70 G's after my first year.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So like it was a really rough time.
So no more wad of cash in your pocket.
No. And it was like I wasn't living too crazy. I mean, listen, I was living at home. It was like but I just kept spending money and I wasn't making anything. So it definitely slowly went the other way. Mm-hmm. And I remember asking my parents for money for the first time in my life. I needed like $500 just to make a car payment.
Yeah.
And like, went from like being, chilling, at 20 something and, at 20 years old and, to a year later, basically begging my parents for money. And, basically from there, I ended up realizing a couple key mistakes that I had made. And in my second year of real estate, I had done about 16 million in sales, just under, I think it was like 15.5. But the one time I made a key mistake. I signed a contract with a team that made it very hard for me to personally make money. They made a ton on me, right? Yeah. I think it was like 300,000 in commissions. And 21 years old, everyone was like obsessed with me because I was a hard worker and a master at the phones at the time. But they made $250,000 and I made like 40 grand.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
So I was pissed and I actually quit the business. I quit the business. I was like, my hands are up. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but clearly I'm doing something wrong because this is not what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And basically I went to a Tony Robbins event in 2017, actually here in Jersey. I went to Unleash the Power Within.
Oh, you did? Nice. Yeah.
I loved it. Changed my life, man. Listen, I put it on a credit card. I went to it was $2,500 for the Diamond Premier tickets at front row. And what ended up happening to me at that event was that I signed up for a coach, like one of his business coaches, also on a credit card. Within 6 months of the coaching, because listen, what ended up happening, I got the bug of like, I wanted to make a ton of money. I wanted to be rich. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of what happened afterwards. And my coach at the time, and by the way, I'm 22, mind you, 22.
Yeah.
No money in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
I have no money in the bank. So I'm broke, and I have an ungodly amount of credit card debt, and I have like a 550 credit score. So like I am not good financially at 22.
Yeah. How much debt did you have back then?
probably like 60, 70,000. Something
Oh,
like that. It was
okay.
in that range.
In
And,
credit cards or other
credit
debt
cards.
too?
All
Yeah.
credit cards, which was the worst, because
Yeah.
minimum
High
payments were
interest and it's just getting accumulating and
I was
compounding and
getting
all
crushed.
that.
I was getting
Yeah.
crushed. And
So how did you get a ticket for, you said $2,500 for Tony
I just kept
Robbins?
putting on
You
credit
just,
cards.
you
I
just
was
said,
living on
you
credit
know,
cards.
I'm in $68,000 worth of debt. Let's just go to
Didn't matter to
70,500.
me.
Yeah,
Didn't matter to me.
you're
But
like,
like the only
yeah,
thing that
no.
I can kind of say that thankfully worked in my favor was that I wasn't stupid in the sense of like all the money I put on credit cards, majority investment. Like it was like I was going to conferences and leadership stuff. I was buying courses and coaching and stuff like that. It's like it was like a college degree. I mean, it was super high interest,
Yeah.
but at least it was learning skills that would eventually hopefully pay off, which was my gamble essential on myself.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah,
Yep.
so I ended up basically I had like 5 different businesses I was running, and I remember I basically worked out of a Panera because I didn't have enough money to pay for an office. So I was
Mhm.
working out of Panera every day because they opened early and they stayed open late, and the coffees were like $1, and like the people they loved me there, so I was getting like free coffees and stuff like that. So it was like the cheapest way I could work, right? I'd plug in my
Yeah.
laptop and whatever.
Free
And
coffee and free
oh
office.
yeah, it worked out perfectly. My coach at the time was like, listen, kid, you're starting 5 different companies. You're 22, 23 years old. Like, you're never going to be successful like this. And I was like, you're probably right. And he's like, if you could only focus on one thing for 10 years of your life, what would it be? Because I assure you, if you focus on one thing for a decade, you're probably going to be pretty successful at one thing. It's just that you're all over the place. So in that moment, I knew it was real estate because I had made a ton of money for somebody else. And if I just did it for myself and doing what I know works best, I'd make a little bit of money. And that was January 2018, and I haven't looked back since. So
Okay. So what were you focused on then that was different than before? I mean, now you jumped into real estate and because you were pounding the phones and not making enough, like a good enough percent working with those guys. So now what was the new plan? What was the new excitement and how did that go?
yeah, I mean, so I came back in it with a vengeance. You know what I mean? I came into it with a lot of stuff to prove. I came into it saying, like, I know I've made money in real estate. Like, it wasn't like I made zero. I had proven that I had made money. I didn't make money much in any other industry except for real estate. And the only reason why I didn't personally make a ton of money was because I had signed a terrible contract with the previous team. So I had made enough mistakes to know that if I just avoid these few things, I'll probably do
Yeah.
okay. And I mean, that first year I made like 137 grand. And I was like 23 years old. And I was like, obviously that was more money than I had ever seen before. I was like, my tax record said like 137. I was like, holy shit. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was like,
And you were
this?
you were doing 40 grand with those other guys before?
Well, I had
said?
grossed like almost 300,000 with them, but my take home percentage cut, like, with brokerages
Yeah.
and teams, you get percentages of deals, right? My
Yeah.
percentage was so minuscule, I didn't even break 40 grand.
Oh, you didn't break 40. Okay. Yeah.
I was like 39,950. I look back at some of the
Yeah.
things.
So if you would have signed a better contract, like 50-50, you would have made out, reasonably
Yeah, I would have
okay.
made more. It was like 280,000 in commissions or something close to that effect. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I would have made a majority, like I did that one. That year I made 137. I made basically the way it works out in real estate is that you have a split with your brokerage, which is essentially like an 80, something around an 80-20 split, 70-30, 80-20, somewhere in that ballpark. So if you make 100, you're going to make 80.
Yeah.
But if you work on a team, you work off of that split plus an additional split with your team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So if you made hypothetically 100 grand by yourself, you'd maybe make 70 or 80. But if you work with a team and you make 100, you might only make 35 or 40.
Yeah. So now you're on your own. So you're cutting out the middleman, that one extra layer.
Exactly.
But you were licensed before, right? You had like a real estate license and everything. Like
Correct.
It's just now you're not getting that. You're not getting middle.
I was all
right?
by myself. I wasn't on a team. I was just with the brokerage. That was it. And I made 137 that first year. What was crazy though is that I got my taste. This is what changed my life though, is that early on, I had mastered the art of the phone sales. world.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to real estate, right? Very early on in my career, I had made, I mean, and now to this day, it's over 1 million cold calls, but, you know, very quickly had made hundreds of thousands of cold calls because that's the only way I could get business. I'm a 20-something-year-old kid. Like, it's not like I had an amazing network at the time, right?
Yeah, you're just pounding the phones.
Pounding phones, baby. So I would do that every day for 10 hours a day. And it works if you're good. And I sucked to begin with.
Yeah.
And just worked really hard at it. And, you know, what really set me on a different trajectory was the fact that in that first year, I started working with 2 different investors. And I got a taste for the investment business. And I went on to then sell them, basically do tens of millions of dollars worth of deals with them alone. So I had made them quite a sum of money over the first couple of years of my career, which was great because the cool thing about real estate in the investing world is that if you're a real estate agent, which I don't recommend everyone just becoming a realtor, but the cool part about it is that I got to learn how to invest in real estate while making money. Right. So like I'm learning through them. Right. So like they show me, like I would find them the deal. They'd do the deal. They'd make a bunch of money and then I would sell the deal. So I would make money on the beginning and then the sale. And then, you know, I would go through the whole process with them. So again, I was a part of, you know, over 100 flip transactions, learning how to analyze deals, learning how to find deals, learning how to become a master of, you know, finding great investment deals.
Yeah. That's amazing.
You know,
I mean, that's great experience. Yeah. And then so the first year, like doing it the right way, you made 137,000, you said?
Yep. That was my 2018. Yep.
Okay, 2018. So that's only, you know, like 4 years prior to today. So that was kind of your breakout, you know, were you able to get out of debt completely then, or what was that process?
Middle of the following year, I was like officially out.
Okay, but you were on your way, so you felt kind of relieved and like a little less pressure, and you could take
I was just happening to be in the positive. Like I was actually making some money.
Yeah. So you were good. I mean, because you're on the up and up, you're on the right track. So can you talk a little bit about what you said, you know, because you said you're a master of the phones and you were doing that. You just got a bad deal with the guys before. So what do you focus on your phone process? Like how to find a lead, like, you know, to cold call or whatever, how to generate a lead. And then once you have the lead on the other end, like what do you do to get them comfortable and wanting to hire you, work with you in the transaction?
Essentially, yeah. So there's this process that, like, I mean, essentially it's almost every sales position, right? Like the goal originally is to get a list, right, of people who are most likely going to do something with you, whatever business you're in, right? Then hit the list of which way you're going to do it, right? You know, for me, it was calling, right? I know there's obviously you know, you're on the marketing side of things, so a little slightly different, right?
Yeah.
And then now that you've hit the list, right, now that you're now in communication with that list of whatever way you're doing it, now you need to sort of build enough rapport, right? And where you can convert it into a contract of some sort of them doing business with you. I mean, that's essentially the process, right? And for me, you know, the cool thing about what I do is that it's almost the easiest list in the world because it's everyone who owns property, right? So that list is fairly simple to come by, right? There's a lot of different ways to get the list, right? I mean, for me, you know, I started, if you're in the residential world, I start with a software called mojosells.com. It's just an auto dialer, but it's, you know, you can use Mojo Sells, RedX, Vulcan 7, a lot of softwares that'll pull the list for you, right? So you start there and you can basically cold call any list. I mean, obviously just your conversion ratio is going to be lower on cold lists and then hotter on better lists, right? I mean, it's just, that's all, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. But what I do now differently is that I specialize in more so in the commercial world now, where we have different asset classes, because obviously, you know, you have retail strip centers, and then you have warehouse space, then you have multifamily, right? You have office space. So like there's a lot of different sectors of the commercial world where instead of just doing it with residential homes, right, single family houses, where I was looking for people to basically sell their house to me and my investors for, quote, bottom dollar. Instead of that, now I look for larger commercial assets, that essentially they're looking to sell the property fairly quickly for, with ease, right? Like they don't want to deal with all the hassles. So, it's interesting. So what ended up happening was in 2019, I had, that year I had made just under 700. And then in COVID, by the end of that year, I was making like 100, almost 100, just about 100 a month, right? By the end of that year, I was consistently making almost 100 a month by the end of 2019. And then obviously COVID happened. That took everything from me. So I went from making, basically at a run rate of $1 million plus to zero.
Yeah.
So the reason why I bring this up is because what happened during COVID was that I learned that, number one, stick to work, right? Like stick to what works, period. Because to me, what ended up happening was that the people who stuck to prospecting at my level made a ton of money in real estate. And then my mentors were like, hey, through COVID, I made over $1 million in 2020. And I was still mostly in the residential world. But then my mentor told me, and I learned a couple things from a couple really successful mentors of mine. And they're like, listen, real estate's good right now. But what you need to understand is that this is not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to think about it where imagine if you were going to do 50% of the amount of transactional business you're going to do this year. Imagine every year going forward, you're going to do 50% less each year. Because there's eventually a moment the market so much where you're going to get hit big time. And if you want to make more money, even though you're only able to sell less transactions because there won't be as much business going around, how would you ensure that you would make more money every year? So it made me think differently.
Yeah.
Right.
Smart.
So over the last few years, I've shifted my perspective to only doing majority commercial because the transactional sizes are so much larger. Where if I did 10 deals, I'll still make, $1 million plus, where, that's a fraction of what we do right now. We're at 60, 70 transactions a year. So it's,
that's super smart. Just you getting comfortable in one thing and like, this is going to last forever. In business, it's always going to shift. So, you having the right mentors around you to tell you what to do and how to shift and focus. That's huge. So what percentage now is you doing residential versus commercial versus investing? Like what percentage are you focused there? And I know you're working with us on, building some online, building your brand there and building a course and doing some online stuff too. So that's like another area. So.
Yeah. So probably 80-20 commercial residential, right? Commercial is 80%, 20% residential right now, given the market we're in. And a large majority, the best part of it is it blends together, right? So like, as I'm finding good deals for my investor clients, the rest of the stuff I do myself with my partner, right? So like we cherry pick the best deals ever. So like, if we know like, oh man, this house flip is going to be unbelievable. So instead of selling it to so-and-so for make $20,000-$25,000, I'll buy it and make 150, right? And just buy the deal personally. Same thing with multifamily, where it's like, the right multifamily deal comes along or a commercial deal comes along, instead of selling it and making 50, 100, 200 grand, I'd rather buy it and make $1 million in 3 years when I refinance it, right? So like I'm finally in a place to do that.
Okay. So are you using when you say you're buying a property or whatever, are you personally taking your money? Are you like financing it through the bank and then doing it? Or are you using OPM or are you using your own cash?
So I'm a huge fan of OPM. That's how I got started in this business.
And just to be clear out there, OPM is other people's money. Just to, clarify that.
I agree in using other people's anything you can, right? Other people's wisdom, other people's money, other people's experiences, right? My first deal ever was actually with my own money, right? I bought a little single family house, right? And it was funny because I'm going to buy it as a rental, paid 145 grand for it. 155. I bought it off a wholesaler. He paid 145. I paid 155. So a wholesaler, by the way, is just someone who can find off-market properties, right? That's just like they're wholesaling properties, right? But essentially assigning you a contract. So I bought it for 155, and then within literally the day I bought it, some guy said, hey, one of my investor clients was like, hey, I'm looking for a property, and I had just found out that there was fire damage, which I didn't notice during the transactional process. So I was like, oh, I got a property for you. It's 190 grand. He goes, I'll buy it. So I ended up selling the property that I had just bought for $35,000 in profit, within 30 days. So close to close, 30 days. I took that money, I rolled it into an FHA purchase, which is a type of loan, which is a personal primary residence loan, which a lot of people do. I bought a 4-family property, so I lived in one of the units. While making 7 figures a year, I lived in a 4-family house, and I rented out the rest of the property, the 3 units. Thankfully, because that property I ended up actually just selling and making 180 grand on it in a few short years, and it was tax free. So I moved. So originally it was all my money, right? And I was only able to move so quickly because I had to save up a ton of cash to then keep doing deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what ended up happening was that I did one deal with other people's money, and I got addicted. And I was like, wait a second. I could buy a deal, make money when I buy it, make money while I own it, and then make money when we sell it at the very end, all with using other people's money. I'm like, how on planet Earth is this legal?
Yeah.
Right. But that's essentially if you know how to find fantastic deals, there are ways to make money in every piece of the deal. And that's what we do a lot of today.
Okay. Are you using banks to do it, or are you just finding investors to buy the
majority
deals?
of the time we raise investor capital for down payment, finance the rest of the bank. And part of that money is also used that we raise is also used for holding costs and renovations.
Okay. Is there ever a time where an investor or something loses money on these deals? I mean, how does that work? Is it like pretty secure, or how does that?
Great question. I mean, the thing is that in real estate, it's very hard to truly lose money, right? Because even a terrible real estate deal will have some type of return. It might not be as high as you want it to be, but you're going to have some type of return. And the blended rate of return that you're going to get in real estate, because between the appreciation of the property, the depreciation on your taxes, the equity you're building based on the fact that tenants are paying down your debt, right? So your equity pay down. And the fourth one, which is what everyone talks about on YouTube and the internet, which is cash flow, right? Which is obviously what we want a lot of. But even if all of those were fairly small returns across those 4 pillars, you're still looking at a halfway decent return. So it's hard to lose money. And similar to the stock market, Jesse, like you throw $1,000 hypothetically in the S&P 500 at let's just say today's rate, you have $1,000. Let's say you did it in January, because let's just take quick numbers, right?
Yeah.
January, you invest $1,000 in the S&P, right? You lose 20% year to date now. You're at $800. Okay.
Yeah.
Mentally, you're like, oh God, like I'm freaking out, right? You're losing 20% of your deal, but essentially, you own the paper. Right. And the paper right now, tangibly, if you transacted that paper for money, you're looking at $800. But that's only if you transacted it. It has nothing to do with the fact that if you don't sell it today, it's an imaginary number.
Yeah.
Right. Because essentially you're investing for long term, and most likely, with the S&P returning 10% annualized year over year, if you don't sell it this year and you just wait for, hypothetically 5 years from now, and if only it was worth $100 more than you paid, right? You only made $100 in quote profit in 5 years, right? You didn't really lose money, right? You didn't make the return you were probably hoping for.
Yeah, you just left it there. You couldn't take your money out. You weren't playing with house money, but it's still, there's no actual real value there.
Yeah, I mean, but you didn't lose money, right? So in real estate, it's slightly different, because even if you bought a property for 100 grand today, if the market tanks and it's only worth 80 grand by the end of the same year or the following year, if you don't sell it, you still have not lost anything, because all you've invested is the down payment. And obviously, if you raise the capital, you've lost nothing. You've lost nothing of someone else's money, right? Now, essentially, as long as the deal cash flows in the meantime, which even if it didn't and it just broke even, you're still having the appreciation of the asset over time, which depends on how long you own it. You're still getting I would say it's even negative, like we're saying. So you have no appreciation, but you have depreciation you can write off in your taxes, plus the real estate taxes that you're paying and the interest, right? So you can write both of those off, okay? And you have the fact that you have the equity you're building in your property, right? Which is your tenants paying down the debt. So even if now in 5 years now, it's worth the same amount of money. You paid 100, And now 5 years later, it's only worth 100. In the meantime, you probably wrote off 5 to 10-ish grand a year, okay, at a minimum. 5 to 10 grand a year in tax write-offs, plus the fact that the tenant has now been paying down your debt. So even, let's just say you put down 20%, I mean, you had an $80,000 loan, and in 5 years, let's say that the loan's it's now 75 grand, and it's worth the same amount of money. You had the $10,000 a year in depreciation, which is times 5 years is 50 grand. Plus now when you sell it, you're going to get back your down payment of 20,000 plus 5 grand. So essentially you're looking at a overall return of $55,000, right? So it's very hard to lose money if you hold it long-term in real estate, right? If you try to do anything quick, like flipping houses, Jesse, I would never tell my friends and family to flip a house. Like, that is the most risky thing you can do.
Yeah. Because on that, you have to find the right house. You got to know that can be sold, and you're not going to lose money or be stuck with it for a long time, right? Because you're trying to do something quick.
You're in a short window where you are basing it off an assumption. That this X property is going to be worth more after you put in X amount of dollars or X amount of work into the property. It's going to be worth more to somebody, right? And I've flipped a lot of houses with partners and not with partners, right? And the problem is that, like, think about it like this. Like, I'll give you an example. I am only in 2 flip properties right now, okay, that I'm in currently. One of which is now on the market, but we bought it 9 months ago. And it just took us way too long. It took us way longer than we thought, and it cost us way more money than we thought, which is, again, everyone says this. So, like, we accumulated for that. We didn't expect it to take as long as it did. That's the problem. And obviously we didn't expect interest rates to go from 2.5% to 8% in 6 months.
Yeah.
Again, this is a deal where, me and my partner did it together. So thankfully, there's not really investor money, but there's still, even if we sold it at $100,000 less, which would be 15% less than we expected, we would still make a profit. So there was enough equity, the deal was so good that even if we were way off on numbers, we'd still make money. Wouldn't be a lot of money, but we'd still probably make 30 grand.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're speaking, Henry, like, you're clearly an expert at real estate because you've been doing it for a long time and putting a lot of energy into this and learning, and you've invested in yourself, and you've just put time, energy, and money and blood, sweat, and tears into your career. So how long have you been interested in real estate? And did this just happen? You said like 10 years ago or whatever, and you met that guy, or?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's funny because, like, I never thought I'd be in real estate, and I really never thought.
What did you want to do when you were younger? Like, what did you think you were going to do?
I mean, dude, I was like one of those kids who, like, I couldn't make up my mind. Like, it's like I went from I wanted to be a cop to an architect to, a DJ to I was all over the place of, like, what I wanted to be, right? Yeah. But again, like, the bigger thing for me is just, like, I didn't grow up even understanding what making $1 million a year was. Like, that was not something I even thought was, like, even somewhat conceivable. Like, for me, $100 grand a year, which is what my parents,
what did your parents do? What was their profession?
My dad was a school teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. And my mom was, a back-end tech support manager at AIG before they went through the crash.
Okay.
So it's like, my parents maybe made $180, $200 at most combined,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I didn't grow up thinking that, like, that was anything more than possible for myself, right? And, like, $100 grand a year, I was like, when I was younger, I was like, man, if I could just make 100, I'll be thrilled. Which is what I feel like we all hear from people who are looking to start in anything. I just want to break that elusive 6-figure mark,
Yeah. Yep.
So
you never thought you'd get to 7 figures, and then in your 20s at that, you're still under 30 years old. So that's pretty awesome. So, like, you mentioned before, like in the bio that I read out when we started, that you're going through some depression and all that stuff. So what do you have to say to people that are maybe struggling financially and they're going through that kind of PTSD symptoms, and how to stay the course and know that you can gain knowledge in the information age that can put you over the top? Because you're living proof I mean, what do you have to say to those type of people, or your past self that thought there's no way out, you know?
And one thing I'm grateful for is that I just kept going, because like COVID was a perfect example, right? So like for those of you guys who feel like you're struggling, those of you who might not be in the financial position you wanted to, like in COVID, like I remember, March, April-ish, early May, COVID, like when COVID was brand new, right? Like we all thought it was the end, right? Right. Like I remember that vividly, and I was like,
Oh,
I want you to
man.
understand, I was making 100 a month. And I just was stupid with my money. So it's not like I had endless cash saved, right? And so when my business went to zero, I went personally beyond zero, again. And I was like, what the heck, man? Like I was here like 2 years ago. Like I thought I learned my lesson. Like what the heck is going on, right? And the problem was, again, this was another, I would say it was a learning lesson for me. I needed to learn my lesson, and I was not understanding how valuable it is to have a lot of cash saved. And that was a great time to learn it, right? And like thankfully, I had a roof over my head, and like I want to understand, at that time I was even handling majority of my family's payments. Like I lived with my parents at the time, thankfully, right? Like thankfully it didn't but I was paying their mortgage, right? I had them on salary. I was taking care of all the payments. The only reason I lived at home is because I didn't have a girlfriend, and what the heck did I care? I was 24 years old, right? 25 years old, so like, it
Yeah.
didn't matter to me, right? So
Yeah.
anyways, like, for me at the time, it's just like now I had my parents to worry about, right? Because I was covering their bills. Like, and I felt like I didn't really feel like I grew up with too much of a, parents, to guide me, right? I grew up really quick in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was letting them down. I was letting myself down. I had no money. I had to lay off my entire staff. Like, I'm like, what the hell? And listen, the first week I understand. No one blames you for feeling the way you do, by the way. If you're going through it, no one will blame you for how you feel. Matter of fact, if you talk to a lot of other people, one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to feel they're going to feel sorry for you. I'm so sorry you're going through that, blah, blah, blah. Or they're actually, if they're your competitor, they're going to be happy you're going through that. Right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And when I was going through it, for about a week, I cried myself to sleep every night. Like I went from, again, I went from being in that position to being a 7-figure earner, living the high life, to back at zero again. And I was like, man, like what the heck is wrong here? And then all I knew after that, I was like, well, two things happened. I had a really strong why. Like, why do you get up every day? Like, what was the purpose of my life? And I said, like, all I care about is my future daughter. I don't have kids right now. I just got engaged. But like, I thought I could hear my future daughter's voice. And like, all she was saying to me is like, you're not going to give up on me, are you? And I was like, damn, man. Like, I could hear her. I could see her in the mirror. I'm like,
wow.
Like, I was like, I can give up on me, but I can't give up on her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, so like, I'm doing this for, like, I rewired myself to say like, this isn't for you, dude. Like, I understand you'll give up, because a lot of us will give up on ourselves or let ourselves off really easily, but you got to find a reason why that's beyond you.
Yeah. 100%.
Your why will only
Powerful.
get you so far. Right. So, thankfully I had that. And literally all of a sudden, like one day I was just like, you know what? You're right. Like I have full control over everything in my life. Full control. Like even COVID, in the real estate world, right? It went to zero and then it blew up in like 10 seconds. But what happened was that I think people just got really sick and tired of not being like, just being in one mindset, and they just went bananas, right? So like, it's just sort of like when you realize that, okay, well, I guess I can still go out there and interest rates are 2%. So, it's not like it's going to cost me a lot of money to buy a house right now. And I want to get out of my house. Right. So then I quadrupled what I'm good at, and I made more phone calls than I even want to admit I made, through, a 9-month period of time throughout the rest of that year, and changed everything for me.
Yeah, I think, there's a phrase that I always say. It's like pressure busts pipes and it also makes diamonds. I kind of see when people get to their lowest low, or, you hear this story a lot where somebody's got a kid and they grind for their kid, they got pregnant unexpectedly, but that was the thing that put them over the top. Because, when you get in, your back's up against the wall, that's kind of like your time to show yourself and show the world what you're made of. And you're living proof of that. I mean, And I've been in that position a lot, and I've seen a lot of people that are real fighters and real, competitors and just great genius people, that when they actually get into a very difficult situation, that actually makes them better. That shows you inside of yourself that you have what it takes, and no matter what position you can get in, you're going to find a way out, because number one, you're smart. Number two, you work hard. Number three, you got resources around you that you can grab and latch onto. And it shows you that you can be creative in any situation. So, I mean, that's a really powerful story, that you go inside your mind to your future daughter, and you can experience that without that actually being in real life. But that pulls you to come up with the solution, when really you could just give up and quit and hit the easy button and panic and not find that solution. And I see so many people out there that, they don't want to challenge themselves all the way. So then they get comfortable. And I think that's what corporate America gives you. It gives you a job. It gives you $100,000 a year. It gives you this security blanket, but you're not really giving yourself and your value to the world like your potential really can give the world. And that's why I want to say, this is really awesome what you've done, because you've excelled. You've gone past the average realtor. You're in the upper echelon now, and this is only the beginning for you, right? I mean, what's beyond this? How are you challenging yourself now to be like, okay, I've had success. I've learned a lot. Like, what's the new challenge, the new rebirth, if you will, to go to the next level? Or, because and you kind of said it, if you just kind of keep going along with what you're doing, there's going to be some pitfalls too. So anyway, yeah, what's next level for you now?
Next level for us is really moving on a couple different things. Number one, I always like to just say, I want to have the new biggest deal I've ever worked on, the new biggest check I would create, the new biggest deal I take down personally and own. I mean, the goal here is that I want to own $1 billion plus worth of real estate, right? I want to have a net worth of $1 billion, which is probably meaning that I'm probably gonna have to own probably around $10 billion worth of real estate.
Yeah.
At some point, which is, but the cool part, the thing that I think about is it's just, I love how real estate's a long game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really think long-term about it, which obviously everyone's like, well, I want short-term success. There's an opportunity for that. But if you think long-term with real estate, any number that you want is possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's if you just find opportunities that kick off of enough of returns that investors are interested, right? You can raise endless amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
right? The interesting thing about real estate is that also, if you have control of the deal, any amount of money you've ever desired is capable for you to raise and or to make.
That's powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. It's but you control what's you control the product, right? And that's what people want, right? That's the supply and demand. But everyone's just well, I want to make, you shouldn't be chasing the money. You need to be chasing the deals, because if you have control of the deal flow, you will make money. And I just control decent deal flow, and I'm looking to control great deal flow one day, and that's all I look for.
What's the key to controlling deal flow? Where you put all your energy now? I mean, is it taking people out to dinner? Is it, looking on the internet to see where the next thing is, where you want to position yourself? What are you doing to control that? To put yourself in position to control deal flow?
Yeah. So for me personally, it's a mix of a few things. Number one, trying to be connected with as many brokers around the country, or at least in areas that I want to be involved in, as possible. So having connections with agents and building relationships and saying hey, I control, X amount of dollars that we're looking to place in an area near you that you seem to be an expert in, and building a relationship that way. And also just what I've also felt that has been very interesting throughout my life that I feel applies here is that what you tell everyone in your network that you do changes the way the world looks at you and how they will refer you. And it's like, I'm sure throughout your career, you have slightly changed over time the quote ask, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And as I've done that over my life, the quote referral or the connection that you make, or the way that they because people in your life want to help you. Like, they're not,
Mhm.
they don't
Yeah.
hate your guts, right? Like, the people that are in your life want to support you. So, but how you ask them and what you ask them for will control the output, right? Of like
Mhm.
what will come to you.
Yeah.
So, recently I just, I've been, the vision for the last 2 years has always been like, I want to build a private equity group. I want to build a private equity group. Like, I want to run a fund one day. Like, I want to, be known for that. Right. And I would just tell people that, like, hey, I run a fund. Like, I didn't
Mhm.
at all, but I would
Yeah.
just tell people, hey, I run a fund and we're looking to move some money, which essentially all that was, hey, I represent some people who have a ton of money.
Mhm.
Right. And they run a fund. But I would just like the ask and the way I talked about it. Now I run a fund because now people
Yeah.
want to work with me, and I get a lot of deal flow, and now those investors want to invest with me. And it's just interesting how if you change the way you speak, the world will, basically, the world shifts for you.
Yeah. So what's your idea on how you can launch and build and control and launch this fund? Like, what does that process look like? How do you
Yeah,
do
so
that?
it's really just getting really good deal flow, which again
Mhm.
comes from only one of a couple places. And if you want to self-generate deal flow, it takes a lot of hard work of grinding the pavement, which includes combing through lists. So I have, a number of salespeople who work for me full time, just calling through lists that we have, because I can't call all the lists in the world, even though I'm a little bit biased to say I'm the best one at it. I wish I could just scale my time, so, but number one is, again, if you want to basically create, get your own lists, hit the lists, right? Number two, what I do all the time is that whenever I'm driving around, I'm driving in the right lane, and I'm driving very slow because I'm just looking at product. I'm looking at stuff all over. Like, I'm looking at every property we pass, because what I've noticed is that the really dilapidated properties, the properties that have high grass, the properties that aren't taken care of, the ones with high vacancy, like, guess what? They stick out like a sore thumb if you know what you're looking for. And
Mhm.
all I do is I write down the address, and then I go look up the property, and I get the property owner's information, and I call them,
Mhm.
and I offer
Yeah.
them a number. And typically what'll happen, like here's the thing, like, any person can do this. You call up the owner, which there's several softwares that you can buy to do that. And or sometimes if it's a big property, like, again, some of them have a for rent sign in the window, and just call the for rent sign and just say,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know, so your property's for rent. I was just curious, would you consider selling it for the right price? If you ask the question, would you consider selling it for the right price? Nobody says no.
Yeah.
That's the strategic part of asking the question that way.
Yeah,
So
there's always a price, right, on everything, no matter
that's
what.
why you say the right price. You don't say a price. You say for the right price. And because
Yeah.
guess what? For the right price, anybody will sell.
Yeah, that's a secret right there, right? Because a lot of people will say, well, you sell your property, and they're like, no. You say for the right price, will you sell your property? The conversation shifts just by adding 2 words to the
That's it.
conversation, right?
Agreed. And listen, that's a lot of trial and error, right? So
Yeah. And how many times did you say you want to sell your property? You got the door or the call, hung up on, and then you're like, oh, just that one shift. Man, now I got all these deals, like, and that's the thing about entrepreneurship, right? It's just like creating your own luck, because I kind of put like, you got to be good, you got to be lucky, and sometimes it's better to be more lucky than good, but you can create your own luck by learning the secrets of how things happen. So yeah.
Look, I'm basically and essentially screaming from the rooftops, okay, what I do for a living and how people can bring me business,
Yeah.
right? Everyone in my network, if you called any person in my phone, all right, if you called any one of them, they know what I do, and they know that if they find a good property, to bring it to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like, everybody knows that. And I've spent the last few years doing that. And everyone I talk to now for new relationships knows the same thing.
Yeah. And you, when there's a good property and they see it and then they bring it to you, do you give them a cut, or is it just like a handshake? Like what's the How do you
Depends on
get
what they
them to
want.
like,
I say, look, you got a
yeah.
couple. I always tell them up front. There's a couple ways you can make money. I can pay you a couple
Mhm.
dollars on like a quote commission basis, where you can make a couple dollars and basically finder's fee for finding the deal. Or you can be a part of the deal as a small percentage owner. You don't make anything right now, but you become a small percentage owner in the deal for long-term purposes. I'll buy the deal, and maybe you're 2, 5, 10%, depending on the deal, part owner. And, for them, that's awesome.
Yeah. So building up your fund, you're working on, getting all these deals coming through, and then like, how does that will help you raise money that once you have enough flow of deals, then you can start, moving money around and getting that working for you, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, so essentially, the way it works is that we find a deal, which is just 123 Main Street, a property that a seller is looking to quote sell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What'll happen is that I'll vet them essentially to kind of get a gauge on how motivated, how much upside, just like kind of quick basic stuff. How much is the property bringing in? I'll run some preliminary info, data basically through some underwriting spreadsheets that I have, which is just sort of just saying, based on what this is today, and based on what I could make it someday, how much upside is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if it checks some boxes for investors as to saying like an investor, if the upside is enough where an investor would be intrigued, I have a couple options. If it's great, I'll buy it myself with the investors that I have personally. If the deal is good, right? What I'll most likely, or majority of the time I'll do, is I'll just broker the deal, right? Because my goal is that like I buy the best stuff with the best returns, because my investors deserve that. That's the way I kind of see that.
Mm-hmm.
And anything less than great is not good enough for at least my investors. But guess what? Just because my personal, like, I don't want to do it personally, doesn't mean I just can't, I can't flip the deal essentially, or broker a deal. And now instead of, buying that property 123 Main Street, I'll sell it to another investor and make 50, 100, 200 grand. And, build a great relationship with that individual and just continuously help them find more product.
Yeah. So are you primarily working in the US? And if so, what parts are you focused on? Where's the hottest, markets right now? And are you looking outside of the US too, or is it just US?
Yeah, right now it's, primarily, look, I live in New Jersey, and there's
Yeah.
just a lot of product here. So I've been dominating New Jersey, right? So like that's where I do
Okay.
90+% of my business.
Yeah.
However, we launched in Texas, and one of the departments of my sales team launched for Texas. And we're about to launch in a few other primary markets, big metro areas around the country, just because again now we're starting to see that there's demand for it. Because my thing is like, what a lot of people try to do is they go, wow, this guy on YouTube is really good, like any guru on YouTube, like, oh wow, this guy is really smart, and like I want to find a way to do real estate in my market, but they don't have anybody to do deals in their market, and then they find a deal in random tertiary market that they're like a random market that they're in. They don't have anybody who's really looking for deals there. And they find a halfway decent deal in town, and they have nobody to sell it to. Right?
Yeah. So there's
And it
no
doesn't
way
work.
to like complete the deal, right?
Exactly.
Like,
So like
only
the deal
got
just
halfway there, but if halfway is not good enough, it's not going to complete the entire
and
process.
then they blame real estate, and they're like, well, real
Yeah.
estate doesn't make any sense. And they're like, no,
Yeah.
you just are targeting the wrong market. Like, it's like, if you want to work with me, which, again, like I talk about on my YouTube channel, it's like, if you find a great deal in New Jersey or in Texas right now, because that's where both of my teams are, I can do a deal with you. And there's a way for us to probably make some money. But outside of those two markets, unless it's a larger multifamily deal between 100 and 300 units, and with major value add opportunities to it, you're probably like, I'm not the person to do deals with, and I would probably tell you to find a buyer or two first, find product for those people, so that you have an end buyer.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you need both, right? And if you don't have both, which don't get me wrong, I understand the deal flows like we've been talking about will control the buyers, but if you're targeting deal flow that no buyers want, you will not make any money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, you've shared so much knowledge on here, Henry. I mean, you've got great experience, and not just experience, but kicking ass in taking names in real estate. I mean, you're doing it at a high level, man. I know you're going to continue growing and moving to the next phase. I know you've been talking about your YouTube channel. Everybody's got to go follow Henry on YouTube. So just go to YouTube and then type in Henry Eisenstein. He's got a lot of good content there, great videos. His video guy is amazing. We've been working together with him as well. And, Henry's about to do a launch and show people his system, right? Like you're going to kind of break down your system, the 7 steps or whatever to really get this mastered and understand how to do it. So anybody out there interested in learning real estate, make sure you follow Henry on YouTube, and then also stay tuned because we're about to launch a course and a whole bunch of cool stuff together to show other people how to take advantage of this skill that he's mastered. So yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Listen, my big thing is this, like, I've seen way too many gurus or fake gurus out there who just constantly put out content and try to sell you courses so that they can pay their bills. And essentially I just got asked by too many people to say, hey, could you help me? Hey, could you help me? Hey, could you help me? Where I'm like, all right, well, listen, if you need some support, take it. I'm not trying to charge a lot of money for it. It's just like, listen, grab the information. The real way I make money is through real estate, and doing deals. If you want to learn how to do a lot of deals in real estate, whether you're a real estate agent or want to become an investor, you should definitely be paying attention to it. Works for really anybody in that sales world, specifically real estate. And at the end of the day, guys, like, a big thing for anybody who's looking to get started is just, I invested tens of thousands, at this point, hundreds of thousands of dollars in my education. Mm-hmm. And if you want a shortcut in order to make money in this business, you have only, if you want to make money in this business, you have a couple options. You can either fail forward on your own, which will probably take you a year, 2 or 3, or you shortcut it like I did. And I learned from great people out there where I learned a lot of free information. And then I bought a lot of courses. I went to a lot of conferences, and I got coaching from a lot of very, very successful individuals so I could shortcut my success. And it still took me a long time, right? Which it will take anybody. Like, it will take you time to make, to see results. Everyone's just like, I want results in 7 days or less. It doesn't work. And if there was a way to do it, we'd all be buying, we'd all buy it.
Yeah.
Just, again, but this is like the real peel back the curtain, exactly what you need to do step by step to see results. So
yeah,
we'll make sure we sign you up.
Yeah, absolutely. So follow Henry's YouTube and stay tuned with what we got coming, because we're going to be launching his course and his free webinar first, and then you can kind of learn from that, and then you dive into the course and really start learning how to do this and start launching a business. So, and I know you kind of switched from Remax or whatever, like some of these other companies you were working with, to like EXP. Yep. So can you talk a little bit about why you did that, or what your vision is for that?
Yeah. So, listen, there's only so many ways where you can, quote, make more money in real estate. Okay. Majority of the time we are pitched and we are marketed to saying, this is how you sell more real estate. Right. However, a lot of us forget the fact that one of the easiest ways to make more money in real estate, because you have to have your license with a brokerage anyways, and no one really, I don't want to become a broker, right? Like, I'm not here to run a huge real estate office, right? I just want to make as much money as possible. And I appreciate you bringing up my YouTube channel so you can, check out a lot of my content.
Yeah. So here's his channel, guys. You can see he's been working extremely hard at this, his videos. I mean, he's starting to get it going. He's got some views on some of these videos, and, you can kind of learn and check out some things that he has here. He's got some free stuff, download some stuff. Yeah, but yeah, this is where we're going to market the webinar we're doing. And so you can get that for free, and then that'll show you how to get access to the course. So,
yeah. And it's like, listen, again, when it comes to brokerages, it's just like, if you just move to a brokerage that is more focused on helping you make more money without having to sell a lot more real estate, every dollar helps, guys. And now the company pays me thousands of dollars a year to be a part of the brokerage, right? And I have friends who make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year being a part of this brokerage. And it's like, listen, everyone wants to learn how to make more money faster. It starts with being a part of a brokerage that allows you to make the most money the fastest.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you guys go here and check this out. You can watch some of these videos. Henry's been very generous with his time here. We've covered a lot of ground. I mean, he shared his backstory, how he got started, his path from like struggling to now succeeding in real estate. And how much are you doing now in real estate a year, would you say?
I mean, transaction wise, we're probably somewhere between 125 to 150 million a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah. So, and he gets a good chunk of that. He's doing really well, guys. And he's here to support you. He's one of my good friends. So anybody that knows me and is super tight with me, if you want to get in touch with Henry, I can make the connection and you guys can start going out there and making a lucrative career out of yourself, for yourself in real estate. That was one avenue that I originally, when I started out my journey, I got a real estate license in Florida because I moved out there. I was like living with my cousin and trying to figure out like what I was going to do. And I was, couch surfing at the time. And then, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do real estate. Then I came back and then I started having success online, doing online stuff. So that's where I got involved. And, but real estate could have been my path. And I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Great book.
which changed my thinking, because at that point, before I read that book, I was like, I'm going to go get a job and work for somebody else. And then I realized, I didn't want to be like the poor dad in the book, and I want to build assets and do something bigger and more exciting with my life. And that's, real estate is a great path. There's a lot of people, I think what people say, like as far as an entrepreneurial career, there's more people that get rich off real estate. And I know Grant Cardone, I think, says that. And I think he's probably, one of your mentors, right? Or who do you look up to in, that's kind of building their brand and doing real estate and, making money in real estate? Like, who are some of your biggest, mentors?
A lot of the people that I listen to are like mentors of mine are they're not, these are very wealthy individuals who are not on YouTube or any of that kind of content. But a lot of the people who I do follow online are like, Grant Cardone, of course, Ed Milet, Patrick Bet-David, and Alex Hormozi is where like a lot of the content I listen to right now.
Oh, okay. So that's cool. So yeah, do you recommend, finding some mentors to follow as far as, like influencers to start watching their content as well? Besides you, other people?
Listen, I'm a forever and always, I'm a forever student. Right. Like I don't believe I know everything. Like that's the beauty of real estate. I feel like, I can always learn something new and it's awesome about that. And listen, there's a lot of amazing people who put out a lot of great content out there. Find someone that you vibe with and buy their stuff. And try it. Not that it's, I'm a little bit biased about my stuff, but I'm not telling you just to buy my own. I'm saying buy somebody's. Like stop thinking you're going to do it all on your own. Invest in somebody, let them coach you up, mentor you, and you'll probably see success quicker that way.
Yeah, and Henry's living proof. He went $70,000 plus in debt, credit card debt. I know probably a lot of that was, buying a ticket to UPW and, buying a course for real estate or getting a real estate license. So I know he was, investing in that, but he probably wasn't just buying like, clothes or cars or just whatever. He was investing in himself to get better. And that's what it takes, So if you are going to invest and spend money, think, is this a good investment for my future? Is this going to put me in position to succeed? And I think, you can come out on top if you're really working on yourself within your 100%. Mind, body, and spirit to make yourself better. And man, you've been amazing on here, Henry. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I've learned so much about you. I think, when I got introduced to Henry and we started working together, it was literally like, hey, I'm looking to do something online. Let's go. There wasn't a whole lot of like going back and forth, like, getting to know each other. So I feel like this is a good way, for us to do it. I really appreciate you coming on, Henry, and, you're welcome on anytime, man. You're a friend of mine, and I'm here to help you succeed. Whatever that means for you, man, just let me know. I'm here to help guide and support and take my resources and put them into your world. And, I'm just here to have friends and create great relationships. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This was awesome.
Yeah. So guys, make sure you go and follow Henry on YouTube. So it's Henry Eisenstein on YouTube. You can Google him. You can go to his website, henryeisenstein.com. Stay tuned because we got a launch coming for his course. And any last words for the people before we sign off here today?
If you keep doing what you're doing, they're going to keep getting what you're getting. So it's time to make some adjustments and adjustments. And look, if the market's going to shift and adjust, I think it's time for us to shift and adjust. So
yeah, and I think they call that what the definition of insanity. You know, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different result or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So guys, you know, wise words from a young fella, Henry. This is just the beginning for him. He hasn't even cracked 30 yet. He's already crushing it and changing lives all over the world. His value to the market is so high. You know, he's helping so many people do so many transactions, find their homes, you know, flip, help investors make money. I mean, he's really doing it big at a young age. So you got to really give it up to that. And, you know, it takes courage. It takes an attitude of taking a little bit of risk and going for it and doing something big in the world that changes the world. And, you know, he's living the life now. So really excited to see where you end up or where you head, or, you know, like down the path. But definitely keep focusing on today, because that's what's creating an amazing life for you, man. So just honored to meet you and to know you, and anything I can do to help, brother, I'm here to support. So
let's do it, man. Thank you.
All right. Awesome, guys. So we'll sign off here today. Make sure you go to beyondbiginfluence.com. You check out the other episodes that we've had. We've had some amazing episodes, like even Coach Carter from the movie Coach Carter, which was one of my favorite movies of all time. I interviewed him on Beyond Big Influence once or maybe even twice. But there's a whole bunch of interviews there. You can go rewatch Henry's episode there as well. So Beyond Big Influence, we'll have another amazing guest next week, and we'll see you guys real soon. All right. Take care. Bye.